I think it was, could be some 30 years ago when I went abroad for the first time. I saw a water ski show. And when this amusement park was getting conceived, our architect suggested that we have a lake over here because our groundwater source is practically nil. So when we made the lake, I insisted that we make the shape of the lake that it will suit water skiing show. And then it was in the cold storage for a long time. It could be sometime in 2006 when I started visiting overseas amusement park trade expos. I started meeting professionals who were into water skiing. Then slowly, over several years, I educated myself. To me, initially it was just something to do with a plank of wood which you use it as a shoe and you do the water skiing, you are hauled by a boat. You always try to come up with something new. So we knew that this lake was a strong point and we could have a show which was totally not available in the rest of the country. And that's how we started thinking in terms of how to utilize our strong point. Sometime in 2010, that's when I brought down the skiing team from US over here. They took some trials, they brought in some skis, and when you look at bringing a foreign team over here, what the contract says is that suppose one of these foreign guys meets with an accident during his performance, we are supposed to fly him down there in an air ambulance. It was a very expensive affair because you had to think in terms of not just bringing them down here, the boat, the skis, and what kind of boat, what kind of skis, and what kind of engine. And we had to start from literally scratch. We had to custom make a boat over here in India. And we had to build in the skiing element into that. Once they were here, I was fortunate to find these Manipuris. So they came down here, I invited them, and the first person I met was Jerry. I met him through a friend of his, and Jerry was working in a restaurant at that point of time. So within a couple of days, he resigned his job, came down here and had a look at the show. Then he brought in the rest of the team, and slowly we had 7-8 members, and the foreigners started training them. Training went on for 2 months. Then slowly, after the foreigners had left, these guys were on their own. There was a period wherein there were lots of questions being raised by my colleagues. Is it really worth it? Are these guys going to do the show? Will they be able to bring in that passion the Westerners do have. So this question did really worry me. After 3 months, I saw these guys pull it through, but they didn't have that edge. So that took another couple of years for them to come to that point. Perhaps I had a passion of doing the show over here, but will that passion be cherished by people who come down to the amusement park? Will they also take it in the same spirit, or is it just my passion is being pursued? And once we had this flyboard built into the entire show, and then really people started talking about it. So I think it was only at that point of time I had the satisfaction. But I understood that certain eggs do get hatched only after a long gestation. Good evening. So ready for the show? Ready? Okay. See, as you can notice, there are different kinds of ropes. I mean, some of the ropes have steel wires embedded into it, and you need some ropes which little bit of tension. That is, when you do an act like a wakeboard, there need to be some sort of tension on the rope. That's why you usually have some sort of steel embedded into that, so that it stays stiff and the person can easily jump. Whereas when it comes to the other ropes, they did not have any steel wire rope embedded into it. But the structure of the rope is it's woven in such a way that this will not snap, and it's unlike the kind of ropes which is available in the country. So what I mean to say is that most of the elements or most of the constituents for water skiing has to be outsourced from abroad. And if you look at this particular ski, this might look like wood to you. It's honeycomb aluminum metal, lot of air pockets trapped inside that, and this will float in water. This is pretty lightweight, and this is the only kind of thing what you need to use when you are doing the jump ski. This is the one you use for wakeboard. You have both your legs strapped down to this. This is made out of composite fiber, pretty light in weight. Jerry, I believe this is the one you use for round the boat.
Yeah.
Okay. So this particular one wherein you have both the shoes on one particular ski is the one which he uses for round the boat act. And the kind of fins will also differ from ski to ski. This is the one which they use for the flat ski as well as the wooden one. They use it for flat ski as well as pyramid. And you can see this is conventional wood, but this is treated. It's boiled and bent into such a shape. Girls do perform an act called swirling, and this is the one which is used for that. So let's have a look at the sky ski. Tony is specialized in it. Tony, can you tell us about this? When did you start doing this? This is a fairly difficult act. There is only one company in the world which makes this sort of sky ski. So this is a hydrofoil kind of mechanism. As he gathers speed and he goes in the water, the ski sort of lifts him, and then that's when he starts doing this somersault act. So this is our latest addition to the show. In fact, this has nothing to do with skiing, but the confidence these people they achieved during the last 4 to 5 years made them learn it within 3 to 4 days. So this is a water scooter. Water scooters have been in this world since almost 1950. But it was only 3 years ago, one Frenchman named Frank Zapata, he found that by connecting a fire hose kind of mechanism, this is a fire hose kind of thing. One end of this fire hose is connected to the outlet underneath the water scooter. That's where most of the propulsion comes from. On the other end of the fire hose, you connect this for a skateboard kind of thing. Then you switch on the water scooter, so the entire propulsion is coming through the fire hose, and that lifts you up into the air. Then you can have a couple of hoses which is connected to your hand, which helps you to stay stabilized. And this has become a pretty big fad over there in the West. And we started seeing it on the YouTube. Then we really wanted to get it. The thing is that this became so popular that we had one guest who came down sometime 6 months ago and found Rohit going up in the air, which was quite unbelievable. And at the end of the show, they showered thousands of rupees on him. And I was quite happy to see that the team shared it among themselves. What I see is that there is some sort of special bonding which evolves around them. We get to see in real life as well as movies when two policemen go around on a beat. They might be having some petty differences among them, but their safety is related on their friendship. So some sort of special bondage. So what I noticed with this the skiing team is that when one person is driving the boat, the guy on the ski, his life is dependent on the person who drives the boat. And so we encourage the other person, the driver also, to be on the skis so that he also understands that his life is dependent on the driver who is his friend when he is on the skis. So they are in a way that special bondage, that is their life is dependent on the other, makes them very special when it comes to their friendship. Once I found a newspaper article which mentioned that Manipur is the Switzerland of India. And then of course you read lots about Manipur, especially last year. The kind of petrol prices that was being charged over there, clannish war, and the roads were blocked, and that went on for a pretty long time. So I could see these guys over here, my skiing team, they were pretty worried about it, and the kind of money they used to borrow from the company, the advances, and they used to send these monies back home because the cost of living went a bit too high over there. I also once in a while think about these guys because they put in a lot of effort whenever they do a stunt. And there are a couple of incidents where we had near accidents. They crashed into some of these wooden things which were floating in, and the kind of stress their body goes through every day, especially whenever they are doing the pyramid ski, they have a lot of weight on their body. And then after the end of this pyramid ski, I see them collapsing onto the dock. They might be able to hang around with this kind of show performance till they reach say somewhere around 35 years. So that's when I started thinking in terms of their future. I do get some inquiries once in a while from some of these young IT professionals who say that they would like to learn water skiing. People do tend to see it as a pastime. So that's when I had this seed of the ski school in my mind. To do a basic water skiing show, what you need is almost 7 to 8 acres of lake, which need to be at least 8 feet deep. And the quality of the water has to be reasonably good. The water need not be potable, but what happens during the training sessions is that they do lose their balance and they fall into water quite a number of times. Even if they gulp few mouthful of water, they should not fall sick. I can invite people who are really interested, who can come down here, stay here for a few months and learn skiing. And we can flag the flags of the ski school all over the country. So after watching our adventures in water skiing, I'm sure that some of you will be interested in learning it. This is a private lake, and I'm able to keep it neat and clean, non-polluted. So anybody will feel like getting into this water and learn water skiing. So what I mean to say is that the first step in water skiing is to maintain the waters around you neat and clean. And I would expect civic bodies in this country to take an initiative so that our waters are kept clean, so that not just water skiing, even our life will have a future.